Decision Diaries.
Welcome to Decision Diaries. You are in luck because now you're getting to hear from another one of my children, Corey Layfield, about his decision to decide to major in hospitality. And so, really, if you do not have a child that's majoring in hospitality in college, you're really missing out on what appears to be sort of the coolest major that you can do in college based off of some of the courses that I see we're paying for. So welcome, Corey Layfield.
Hi, glad to be here. And like hospitality definitely has some of the coolest classes you can take. I've gotten to do like so much like really random stuff, but like you just never would think it possible.
Okay, so who was the brilliant mind that gave you the idea to major in hospitality when you were applying for college?
I was you. Definitely you.
Thank you. Oh, is that me? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah. Well, okay. And so just to kind of back up a little bit, why did I think I put that bug in your brain because your grandfather, uh, who was 84, by the way, and I actually talked to him today on his way to work at the Marriott. And, a little shout out to the Marriott for hiring my dad in his mid 70s, really all the way still working today at 84, driving the golf cart at the TPC in Marriott. But also, I just want to kudos to the Marriott group for how great they were during, my mom's passing and holding my dad's job as my dad was, mourning your grandmother. So I just think Marriott is really a caring company, and the TPC division of Marriott was especially kind to our family, and it is great to my father. So I think they gave me the bug because you really weren't quite sure what you wanted to major in. I think a lot of 18-year-olds feel that way. And you did have some criteria. Tell us kind of about your criteria about some of the majors you were looking into.
Originally, I started looking at like finance because I've always been like not like interested in how like money moves and like like saving it, like what are the like correct things you can do with it, like stuff like that. And then a couple other ones were like statistics for a time being till I had a great time in a statistics course. And the other one was like computer science because I knew a lot of people were into that, and I've always like been messing with like computers, like video games and technology for a long time.
And so then why did you decide on hospitality?
I looked at the city. I realized like, oh, it's Orlando. Like this is the city this is like the hospitality industry. Like that is where it is. And like I looked at how much like fun Grandpa has at the Marriott and how good to them like they were. Also like the benefits too, just insane. And so I was just kind of like, could be interesting to figure out about. If I don't like it, just changed along the way, and here we are now, loving it.
Well, I think it's important to point out, where are you? Because your brother's in Austin, but you are actually in what I consider to be an epicenter of hospitality, and clearly going to the right college in the right place, and that is Orlando, Florida, tourism capital of Florida.
Yeah.
And so it does make sense that Orlando would have the best college for hospitality, have a lot of support for learning about the hospitality industry, Disney, Universal, and then, your current employer, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because you ended up finding a job sort of in hospitality while studying hospitality.
Oh, it's led to like a lot of different like learning things, and the more I work at Medieval Times, the more I find out just about the industry in general and how much like first of all like how much money they put into the city for it, and like Kissimmee and like that sector of Orlando, it is insane how much goes on there. Like Universal's building a new park there, and like all the stuff around with that, the like Sunrail being moved over there too, crazy.
Well, it's true. And I think I can say that it was very devastating when, the hospitality industry was sort of stopped in its tracks during that COVID time. And I think everyone appreciated that particular industry coming back and also realized how many people were employed by the industry. So obviously a huge industry. But the other thing I think you kind of mentioned to me, and it's almost funny that you definitely did not want to do the corporate in a corporate office setting. And I think a lot of people feel that way, but I think you recognize that pretty early in yourself that you wanted a variety of places, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or
It was that, yeah.
um, or was it just travel? Was it just
It
you
was a
didn't
bit of
want to
that
be like,
both, yeah.
yeah, you didn't want to be like stuck in a day-to-day office.
Oh.
I must have made that look dreadful.
Some of the days you'd come home, I'd just be like, good God, like, that is not something I want for myself. Because, I mean, it's also that, and like seeing like what Grandpa would do, like the stories he would tell me and Sean about it too. I was like, like, this is something that's probably attainable for myself. And like he's been a lot of places, he's done a lot of things, and he keeps talking about like telling me about how much like, oh, Marriott has also has locations in these spots and all these different places. So like, why not just test it out, test the waters?
Yeah, and we're really hoping as a direct descendant that we get some discounts. So you did recently find out one of those perks, and let's talk about one of the perks of the hospitality association or industry. I don't know if this is, specifically for Florida or if this is in other states. So if anybody is considering hospitality, this is something that you probably need to look into whatever state that you happen to be in. There's lots of other tourism like states, but tell us about the hospitality card that you just received. Card carrying member.
Yep. So when you've worked like within 3 months of like in the hospitality industry in Florida, and it's like all of Florida, not just Orlando, they give you this like Florida like card, and they have this whole website associated with it where like if you check, like you look at it, oh, you like, oh, cool, I got like membership or whatever. They actively do stuff. They get you discounts at, like a bunch of big hotels, and like their whole website literally works by like, oh, pick an area of Florida. So let's see what discounts you have. Like in Orlando alone, I think it was over like 240 deals, like like cheaper hotels, like free mini golf, free access to Gatorland, which is a like it's like one like alligator farm in St. Augustine, but in Central Florida instead.
Yeah,
And it
a little lower budget, I think.
oh, for sure. I haven't been yet, but I have heard many a story. I've heard a lot of stories of it. I've heard it's kind of goofy. But I mean, I gotta go sometime for sure because I get that free entry. But it's like, especially like, I know I was talking to one of my managers about it the other day, and my professor too. I know that Vegas definitely probably has something too for those hospitality cards, so like for like the bartenders, like servers, and all that shit too. And like, it's very like interesting to see because it also shows you how deep the roots of the industry go, even to like, oh, like Disney and stuff, you don't have direct deals with them, but there are things that they like do and for hospitality people.
Yeah, I like that. And and I think you've learned, I mean, well, let's just talk about where you are. You're still within your freshman year of college. You're on your second semester. And, like being the mom that I am, is, I was there the first time that you met with your academic counselor to kind of see what classes you needed to be on this hospitality journey. And I just want to say, I don't know why I didn't choose this as a major because your classes sound awesome. You want to talk about a couple of the classes that you've already taken and like some classes that are coming up?
So like one of the first classes you always take is like an intro class. And I'm like, I think you would have been so good at this because like your like proficiency for talking to people and just making connections would have like instant like love of it. And it's like the first thing I did was like an intro course. And like one of the like my first professor was like a contestant on MasterChef. And like that's one of like the first things she said to us. And we're all just kind of like everyone sitting there was like freshmen or people coming in from like all different places, and we're all just like shocked. One of the first things she had us do is like learn to make like coffee and a bunch of these other things to show us like kind of how like the industry works, like from the food, a lot of from the food side. And like, oh, like we provide a service for people, how like the pineapple is like the symbol of hospitality. It's like a building has a pineapple on it. The little card for the also has one too. And the next course I ended up taking was like lodging operations, which like that professor would just, he's very deep in the industry and he would just tell us like everything going on in Orlando. Like he knew it all. Like if there was something that you wanted to know information on, already knew it. It's already about to talk about it. Gave us the whole rundown. Brought us also through a couple of big hotels too, like the Marriott Bonvoy in Orlando, the really really large convention center. Walked us through there, showed us how it worked, talked about it a little bit, and it was just like, whoa. It was a whole nother level of anything I'd ever seen in like Jacksonville. And like throughout my life, I've been going to like Orlando forever. And it's just different seeing it from the hospitality point of view. Where like now you're no longer the guest, but you're helping those people. It's way more interesting in my opinion, because it's like there's so many things that are done intentionally that I had no idea about. Like then that class helped me see all of that. And then this semester I'm taking like food and beverage management. And just today we went inside a like our local restaurant and they were explaining to us like why all the seating is a certain way, how it's all sectioned off, like how a lot of restaurants have their tables lower so that the sound is all like lower and the people at the bar have like a whole different level above like the, you know, like everyone else on the normal tables.
Oh, I didn't, I'm going to pay attention to that. Well, you don't learn that when you major in finance. I just want to say, I just want to say that. And, I'm also, I hate to say it, and I've said it before, I'm in tech. Glad that, if tech is not your passion and tech is something that you just do for fun, it's good sometimes to just kind of keep it that way and not keep it as your job. So I understand that, that choice, but I do get a little jealous of some of these classes. I think you did some wine tasting,
Oh yeah.
and it all just sounds very resort like, and you're learning all of sort of the inner workings behind the scenes. And it's funny, you mentioned that we used to take you and your brother to Orlando all the time. And we have another episode where we talk about annual passes, and we had annual passes back and forth between Universal and Disney. And Disney's a whole another level. Universal is different in the sense it caters to a different group, so just kind of seeing the differences between those two. But it's not surprising, and I even told your dad this the other day. I'm like, it's not surprising that one of our children ended up in Orlando, because I think we always took you there as a very happy place. We always sort of, the crowds did not stress us out in Orlando. We stayed at multiple hotels. I just want to say high end and very low end. We have stayed at hotels that I hope with a hospitality degree that you don't end up managing, but we did choose some horrible hotels. And then we've also stayed at those mega hotels that you're talking about, those big convention centers. So we've kind of been, we've exposed you to all the different levels. And again, I think we sort of laid that groundwork of your love of Orlando, and your love of travel, and your love of hospitality and serving. And then where you're working now, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, but we went there as a family on Easter to see you at work. You want to and if you go to Orlando, I thought it was really a really great place, and we don't understand why it took us so long. I think you went there with school, and I wasn't able to chaperone during
that was
that
Sean that
trip.
did that one.
Oh, Sean did
I never
that.
got to go.
Oh, you never got to go?
Nope.
Okay. Well, the place we're talking about, so that we're just not being secretive here, is Medieval Times. Medieval Times.
It
And
is.
you are working there now.
Yep. I bartend there pretty much by night, because I mean that's like how most of our shows are, except for the kids shows, like the school ones. Ooh, those are a handful. I've worked one so far, and good Lord, it is not my favorite thing to do. But outside of that, like the night shows, our normal show, so good. I was really surprised the first time I saw it, and like the first time I saw it from like the worker perspective, because you kind of like it's in kind of an interesting area, and you drive all the way out there, and you're like, oh, this is probably going to be kind of like circus acty, and it's really not. It's actually very high quality. They've been running for like 40 years now. I think it's like just over 40 years, yeah.
And there's
And
multiple locations. I didn't
yeah,
know
there's
that
about like
until
10 other ones. Uh,
10.
yeah,
Oh,
there's about 10.
I thought there was only 4. How many medieval
Nope,
time locations are there?
there's 10. I don't know all of them by heart, but there's one in Toronto, Dallas, Arizona. Arizona's the newest one. New Jersey. There's so many castles all over the place. We even have like a whole corporate too. And the corporate's in Dallas.
Yeah. So, you couldn't get off work for Easter, so we ended up coming to you, and we brought all of the family, including your brother and his girlfriend were in town, and we all went to go see you actively at work. And it's kind of like, well, you're already in the hospitality industry and while still going to college. And of course, our concern was you're working a lot. And so, you're still in college, keep that in mind. But it was just so professionally done and so orchestrated. And I mean, obviously you have horses, and if no
Mhm.
one's ever been to medieval times, you have this arena and you have horses, and there's a lot going on. But the food is really good,
Oh, it's so good.
and they really do have sort of a great structure to how the food comes out and when the events are taking place. So a very well-oiled machine. I think the other thing that's really interesting that you've learned early on, and your brothers learned this too, is when you work at a restaurant and you're somebody who's pinching pennies while you're in college or just while you're working at the restaurant, if that's your only job, the perks are clear,
Oh man.
that there is food for the taking. And I think the funniest thing that we heard from one of your childhood friends when they came to visit you is that your refrigerator was full of takeout boxes from medieval times. So think a lot of chicken legs and a lot of
Oh, just like half of
garlic
a
bread.
chicken.
Yeah,
Half of a
yeah.
chicken. No garlic bread ever made at home. No
Oh,
garlic bread ever made at home.
yeah, yeah, your dad drove with you once, and I think we, do understand that you were eating a lot of garlic bread. There was a
Oh yeah.
there was
Oh
you were
yeah.
starting to get a little bit of an odor, but I think what is so funny about the description that came from one of your friends about your refrigerator is that you had so many takeout boxes that you were actually stuffing the takeout boxes sideways in your refrigerator
Yep.
doors.
Yep. There was a long time where I was just living off that food, and it's great. But then I kind of get it like every night. I'd work like 2 shows a night, and it was just like it was at some point I just had so much that I could do like more than I could even like handle and do stuff with, because it's like a full meal. It's like chicken, corn, potatoes. I started putting in other things. I would chop up the chicken, put it in sandwiches, put it in some pasta, and then eventually I was just like, and wow, I've had this a lot. And then
Yeah, we appreciated that. We saw that in your bank account. We also, pulled back our contribution to your bank account as you were eating out all this takeout food from work. So, a little shout out and thank you to
oh, for
Medieval
sure.
Times for feeding you while we were, uh, putting some money in our savings, thank God. But yeah, so I mean, I love that that's a perk that you have. I do like that you're working in the industry while studying the industry. I think the class that you're taking right now, what is that? That's a
It's
mixology?
yeah, it's food and beverage management.
Oh,
So
okay, food and beverage management.
it
Okay.
works like perfectly with whenever I go to work, because I mean I bartend. I'm in the food and beverage part of the department, and like I'll always be talking to my managers about some of the things I learned and some of the things I've seen. And like even today when we went into like a whole restaurant I'd never been to, which I'm probably gonna go eat for lunch tomorrow. It's called the Monroe. It's pretty good. It looked really good because we went back in the kitchen and got to smell it. Get a lot of the smells. But even then, I'm seeing things that I've already seen like in my job and things that I deal with on the regular, where it's like, oh, so this is why how the managers do this. This is how it all functions, and it very much explains the things I through in my day to day, which makes it like twice as interesting to me.
Well, good. I'm glad it makes it interesting. I'm gonna share something interesting about you. You look like the chef from the show The Bear, okay, who is running a restaurant. And I swear, if I post a picture of you with a certain look on your face and the actor from The Bear, if he ever comes to Medieval Times, you have to get a picture with him.
Oh,
But and I
for
hope he does.
sure.
I hope he hears this, and I hope he goes to Medieval Times and sees his younger self in you. But every time I watch that show, which is a new series has just come out, you look so much like him. I mean, the mannerisms and everything. And I know you get that
Oh,
constantly
I get
from
it
people that
all the
come
time.
to Medieval
It's
Times.
so funny. Like the
Yeah.
other day, I had a guy. I'm behind the bar, just like minding my business, just waiting for guests to come up to me. A guy comes up and is like, "Man, you look like just like the guy from The Bear." And I'm like, "Oh man, and I get it so much." And then I was like, "So let me see what you got to cooking." Made one of our like specialty drinks for him.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely loved it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that's real good." And he just kept coming back to me like the whole night, and I was like, "Oh yeah, doing my job there. I am Jeremy Allen White tonight."
Oh, is
And that's
that his name? I'm
yep,
so bad with actors' names. Is that his that's
it's his
his
full name.
actor name,
Yeah,
right?
no, that's just his full name. It's just funny because I'll get people like even people like my coworkers will be like, Corey, you really act and look like Jeremy Allen White. Like servers will say that to me. A couple of the knights have said it to me too. And like it's all just like it happens all the time. I get that. Someone did call me Twink. One of my coworkers calls me Tweak from South Park all the time.
Oh, I don't remember who that is. Describe that person. Which
It's a
one?
little blonde one that's always like saying a bunch of shit stuff and is like always kind of like talking or doing something kind of wild. Because like I'll talk to my coworkers and I'll talk to them about something I did in Jacksonville, and they're like, "Huh?" Because they're from all over the place. Nobody there is from Jax.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say. So, as we're kind of talking about, well, describing what you look like, and again, I mean, I hope I can get a picture. I know I posted one in our chat that he looks so much like you. It's sometimes when I'm watching the series, both me and your Aunt Peggy were like constantly like, "Oh, look at that expression! Oh my God, look at that expression!" And so I feel like you're near me when I'm watching it, so I don't miss you as much. There you go. But um, as we're kind of talking, I don't think that I know you've somewhat become a foodie. You used to be picky when you were younger, and now you're becoming this super foodie. But in the hospitality industry, as far as I can tell right now, you're not leaning towards running a restaurant. You're leaning more towards hotel? Are you leaning more towards amusement park? Which of the industries, as you're kind of going through all this deep dive behind the scenes, where are you feeling right now?
Personally, like for as like where I want to end up in my career, definitely hotel management. Because to me, that's the most interesting. It's how you'll see like the most wide variety of guests, and like, oh, that's how you'll get like really easily returning customers. And through like just like working in a hospitality environment that's like a restaurant compared to like seeing how hotels are run, it's different, but not too different to where it's like anything crazy. And I'm also just like a terrible cook. So like having a restaurant or like managing all that would be an interesting challenge because I'm not the best about like understanding food stuff. Because I'll make a dinner, do it completely wrong all the time.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you did not descend from cooks because I didn't really cook much, and I didn't really entirely teach you boys to cook. I think we all need to go to a cooking class, and I've gone to a cooking class, so I
Mhm.
did do you a bit of disservice there and a bit of the service to your future wife. I think men who cook are incredible. I
Yeah.
wish I would have married a chef because I enjoy the eating part more than I enjoy the
Oh, me
cooking part.
too.
I think everybody in our family does, which is one of those things. But I love that you are talking about going into the hotel management part. Hopefully hoping that as your mom, I get some discounts. But the other thing is, you were the only one willing to watch the White Lotus series with me. And I couldn't get your father to watch it, but do you picture yourself at sort of a White Lotus level resort? Are you thinking more like, again, we have stayed at Hampton Inns, roadside Hampton Inns. And then we've
Radisson.
stayed, and yeah, Radisson. And then we've stayed at a couple of like little kind of corporate a little bigger hotels. But then, your father with doing some of the photography for our friend at conventions, we've stayed at some of those mega Gaylord Palms convention hotels. In your ideal world right now, as of, the age you are right now, where do you picture yourself?
Honestly, probably in like one of those like kind of a little bit more corporatized hotels, kind of like a Marriott, but not as like White Lotusy, because like as cool as the idea of like a resort is, and they're always in such like beautiful locations, I'd rather have something where it's a bit smaller and in a city, and like yeah, you're still dealing with like those like business people coming in for business, high profile. It'd be more of a like, oh, they're come here to stay and then go to a convention, rather than like, oh, you're the convention hotel, so you have to like plan out all those intricacies and see all that through. At the moment, that's how I'm compartmentalizing it. But I'm sure as I'll go, I'll probably lean more towards the resort idea, because living in a nice area is always super cool. And I love the beach. It's like the one thing
Yeah.
that's out
And I,
here.
I know at one point we were thinking before almost hospitality, or we were thinking kind of hospitality, or working for an airline. Again, this kind of travel, you get perks of travel with your job. Any concern about the kind of, the one thing you hear, the one thing I hear from my friends whose children are doing finance and accounting, is that the hours are could possibly be the weekends. Any concerns about that?
Honestly, now that I like at current, I work weekends till pretty late most of the time. I'm kind of more used to it. Sad as that is to say, but I'm not so concerned about it, because I know that the way those operations typically work, they have to give you a couple of days off, even if it's like a Monday, and like that's what I have now. Like I guaranteed always day off is a Monday, so it's just kind of interesting that I'm already kind of like pre into this later like weekend working, so it doesn't really bother me that much that I would be. Maybe if it was like, oh, I clock into work at 8 a.m., leave at 2 a.m. That's where it would be a little concerning, but I hopefully never think it'll get to that kind of situation. I don't think it will. I really hope it's not, but that's like my one constraint right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it could be, flexible. Like right now, I think you may go in at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, but like you mentioned, you're not going in early morning Saturday. So, you know, I know you're not thinking about this, but way down the road when you have a family and you need to take them to
Yeah.
soccer games and all that good stuff, something else to think about. But then, that's a whole way down the road. I think what I love about this is when you talk to us about the college classes that you're taking, it's actually really interesting. Like, I want to read your textbooks. I like hearing about your projects and stuff like that. You're always full of surprises. So I love how this has all come together with your decision to major in hospitality. And so, okay. So, anybody right now who's deciding their major, because it's that time that we've got some graduates, we've got some
Whew.
people getting ready to go into their senior year of high school, and it's sad that you have to. It is better if you kind of declare a major so you don't waste your parents'
Yeah.
money or waste your scholarship money. What would you say as you were kind of, it's the other thing's interesting, I think we need to say, is when you applied to UCF, you did not apply as a
Nope.
hospitality major. You applied as a business major, which I thought was the worst
That was the
decision
worst decision I could have
you
made
ever
because
made.
I probably would have made it if I
Y-
had not
Yeah.
put that.
Yeah. And
And
you and let's just put it out there. My son got denied from UCF. Guess what, people? He lived and he ended up going to Valencia. And I will say, when I walked onto the Valencia campus and we met the academic counselor at Valencia campus, I was really impressed. And I was like, sometimes these things happen for a reason and you end up in the place you're supposed to be. So if anybody is heading off to community college in the fall, do not hold your head down. Hold your head up and just understand that's the path you're supposed to be on.
yeah,
And I think majoring in business is kind of like, unless you really, really love business, is kind of equivalent to being undecided. Like
yeah,
you still haven't decided, and there's so many people put majoring in business, and I'm not really quite sure everybody feels that passionate about it. And you should have listened to me. And I just want you to repeat that on this podcast, that if you would have listened to me, you probably would have got accepted to
yeah.
UCF. Do you not agree?
Oh, I completely agree. And honestly, if you're going into it and you don't have an idea for your major, you should definitely put hospitality because those classes cover so much different random things. We're like, oh, didn't really know what you wanted to major in. Now you can major in theme parks. Do like one hospitality class, put hospitality as like a blanket thing, and then maybe you see you don't like it, you can change it. It's never like a crazy thing. And I know most colleges offer it now too because like Disney's a thing and they have like large outreach programs. Because I've met
Yeah.
people from like all over in like
Yeah.
recent times.
So no regrets. And I'm glad we recorded the regret not to listen to me. All right. So I appreciate you talking to me and that you're not working tonight so that you could spend some time sharing all of your excitement about actually being in the right major for who you are. And I have to do a little shout out to my website because I forget to do that from time to time. So go to decisiondiaries.com, and on my Instagram, I am going to try to find a picture of you.
Oh, I
And
sent you a good one. I sent
okay.
you a good one. It's me cooking it's me doing a hospitality club event. And I'm in a kitchen. So there you go. That's the most like the bare thing I could find. I don't know if I exactly look like him in that picture, but it should be pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're doing some kind of mannerism that's just like them. So yeah, and so I will post that on the Instagram with this podcast. I do want that picture of you, and just want to thank everyone for listening, and please subscribe and like and share to anyone who is really kind of circling around about what they want their major to be, or maybe somebody who is heading off potentially to community college. And I'm here to say, that's not such a bad place to be, right?
It's really
Aren't you
not.
having a great time?
I'm having a good time. And the fun thing with community college is like you'll meet people from all over the place. Like I have friends now that are like, oh, like they just got out of the military and they're like 27. But then you'll also have people that are like same age as you, doing like trying to go down a similar path. And so there's always like a lot of like kind of like kindred spirits around you. And not even that, like Valencia does like all these like random events. You'll just walk onto campus one day like it's normal and oh hey, free Chick-fil-A for a day. Happens all the
Oh
time.
yeah. Yeah,
All the time.
you really are loving the free food.
Oh,
Okay,
I love it
so
every day.
here's some of the takeaways. Hospitality, free food, meet random people. You met the guy from The Walking Dead so
I
far.
did.
I'm sure you're going to meet some other celebrities, maybe meet the bear and uh, Jeremy from the bear, and get a great picture with them. And what I really love is you have to wear a medieval outfit. That's
Oh
just
yeah, the tunic.
fun.
It is so comfy. It fits like pajamas. I love that thing. It is clocking to work in my normal clothes, and we get paid to clock out like after we change too. So, hey, works for me.
All right. Well, all I want, of course, as a mom, is to know that you're happy. But if I can get hotel discounts, restaurant discounts, and any perks from you being in the hospitality industry and save money because we're not having to send you any food money, you know what? I'm even happier. So thank you, son. Thank you for coming on my podcast.
Happy to do it.
Love you.
Bye, Mom. Have a great one.
Oh, you got to say you love me back. All
I
right.
was
Love
listening
you.
to it back.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Have a great night.
Decision Diaries.